Question 1. Governance review demonstrates that the current program's reporting mechanisms are becoming increasingly inefficient and are not providing timely insights for strategic decision-making. As the Certified Programs Leader, CPL, you are tasked with planning the implementation of a new, integrated reporting system. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the CPL framework for managing this significant change? Option A. Postpone the implementation of the new reporting system until a more opportune time, citing the current program workload and the potential for user resistance as reasons for delay. Option B. Immediately deploy the new reporting system across all program functions, assuming users will adapt quickly and address any issues as they arise to minimize disruption to current operations. Option C. Initiate a pilot program with a small, representative group of users to test the new system, gather feedback, and refine the implementation plan before a full rollout, ensuring comprehensive impact assessments and stakeholder engagement throughout. Option D. Implement the new reporting system by providing a brief overview document and expecting users to self-train, focusing solely on the technical aspects of the system's deployment. Correct answer is C. Initiate a pilot program with a small, representative group of users to test the new system, gather feedback, and refine the implementation plan before a full rollout, ensuring comprehensive impact assessments and stakeholder engagement throughout. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need for operational efficiency with the long-term implications of a significant change. The governance review highlights a potential gap in the program's ability to adapt and evolve, suggesting that current processes may be insufficient. The challenge lies in identifying a change management approach that is both compliant with the Certified Programs Leader (CPL) framework and effectively addresses the identified governance concerns without disrupting ongoing program delivery. Careful judgment is required to select a method that ensures stakeholder buy-in, minimizes risk, and aligns with the program's strategic objectives. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a structured, phased implementation of the change, beginning with a comprehensive impact assessment and stakeholder consultation. This aligns with CPL best practices that emphasize a systematic and controlled approach to program evolution. Initiating with a thorough analysis of how the proposed changes will affect various program components and stakeholders, the leader ensures that potential risks are identified and mitigated proactively. Engaging stakeholders early and often builds consensus and facilitates smoother adoption, a key tenet of effective change management within regulated environments. This method prioritizes transparency, risk management, and alignment with program objectives, all critical for maintaining governance integrity and program success. Incorrect approach is analysis, an approach that bypasses formal impact assessment and stakeholder consultation in favor of immediate implementation risks significant disruption and non-compliance. This could lead to unforeseen operational issues, resistance from affected parties, and a failure to meet governance requirements for due diligence and stakeholder engagement. Such a shortcut disregards the structured processes mandated by CPL guidelines for managing significant program alterations. Another incorrect approach would be to delay the change indefinitely due to perceived complexity or resistance. This fails to address the findings of the governance review, allowing potential inefficiencies or risks to persist. It demonstrates a lack of proactive leadership and an inability to drive necessary program improvements, which is contrary to the CPL's responsibility to ensure program effectiveness and compliance. Finally, implementing the change without clear communication or training for affected personnel is a recipe for failure. This approach neglects the human element of change management, leading to confusion, errors, and a potential breakdown in program operations. It violates the CPL's ethical obligation to manage programs responsibly and ensure that all parties are adequately prepared for alterations. Professional reasoning. Professionals in program leadership roles must adopt a systematic and ethical approach to change management. This involves understanding the program's context, the drivers for change, and the potential impacts. The decision-making process should prioritize adherence to established frameworks like CPL, which mandate thorough planning, risk assessment, stakeholder engagement, and controlled implementation. When faced with governance findings, the immediate step is to understand the root cause, and then devise a strategy that addresses these findings comprehensively, ensuring that all regulatory and ethical considerations are met. Question 2. What factors determine the most effective and ethical approach to forming and developing a program team, particularly when faced with urgent project deadlines and the need to integrate new members with existing staff? Option A. Selecting team members and assigning roles based on personal rapport and existing relationships, potentially overlooking more qualified individuals or creating perceived favoritism. Option B. Assigning tasks solely based on the immediate perception of who can complete them fastest, without detailed consideration of team cohesion or individual growth potential. Option C. Prioritizing the establishment of clear roles, responsibilities, communication protocols, and fostering psychological safety and mutual respect among all team members, regardless of their tenure or perceived immediate utility. Option D. Assuming new team members will quickly adapt and contribute without structured onboarding, integration activities, or dedicated support from leadership. Correct answer is C. Prioritizing the establishment of clear roles, responsibilities, communication protocols, and fostering psychological safety and mutual respect among all team members, regardless of their tenure or perceived immediate utility. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for project delivery with the long-term health and effectiveness of the program team. The Certified Programs Leader, CPL, must navigate potential conflicts of interest and ensure that decisions are made ethically and in accordance with the program's objectives and the governing regulatory framework. The pressure to deliver quickly can tempt a leader to overlook crucial team development aspects, leading to potential burnout, reduced quality, and increased risk. Careful judgment is required to identify and mitigate these risks. The correct approach involves prioritizing the establishment of clear roles, responsibilities, and communication channels, alongside fostering an environment of psychological safety and mutual respect. This directly aligns with the principles of effective program management and ethical leadership, which emphasize building sustainable, high-performing teams. By investing in foundational team development, the CPL ensures that the team is equipped to handle challenges, adapt to changes, and deliver high-quality outcomes consistently, thereby upholding the integrity and reputation of the certified program. This proactive approach minimizes future risks and promotes long-term success, which is a core tenet of responsible program leadership. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on assigning tasks based on perceived immediate skill, without considering team dynamics or individual development needs, fails to build a cohesive unit. This can lead to resentment, underutilization of talent, and a lack of shared ownership, ultimately hindering program progress and potentially violating ethical obligations to foster a supportive work environment. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over thorough onboarding and integration of new members, assuming they will figure it out, neglects the fundamental responsibility of a leader to enable team success. This can result in misunderstandings, errors, and a breakdown in communication, creating a chaotic environment that is detrimental to program objectives and team morale. It also fails to meet the ethical standard of providing adequate support and resources for team members. A further incorrect approach that involves overlooking potential conflicts of interest or biases when assigning roles, perhaps favoring individuals with whom the leader has a closer personal relationship, is a direct ethical failure. This undermines fairness, erodes trust within the team, and can lead to suboptimal resource allocation, jeopardizing the program's integrity and the CPL's professional standing. Such actions are contrary to the principles of impartial leadership and fair treatment. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic evaluation of team needs, individual capabilities, and program objectives. A CPL should first define the desired team structure and roles based on program requirements. Then, they should assess individual strengths and development areas, considering how these align with the defined roles. Crucially, the leader must foster open communication, establish clear expectations, and create mechanisms for feedback and conflict resolution. Ethical considerations, such as fairness, transparency, and the well-being of team members, must be integrated into every decision. This holistic approach ensures that team formation and development contribute positively to program success while upholding professional and ethical standards. Question 3. Examination of the data shows a potential for significant delays in the upcoming program launch due to unforeseen technical complexities. To mitigate these delays, a proposal has been made to streamline certain quality assurance checks, particularly those related to documentation verification and user acceptance testing sign-offs, by relying on team lead attestations rather than formal sign-offs. As a certified programs leader, CPL, what is the most appropriate approach to address this situation, considering the need to maintain program integrity and adhere to the regulatory framework? Option A. Immediately approve the streamlining of quality assurance checks to meet the launch deadline, assuming that the team lead's attestations will be sufficient to maintain program integrity. Option B. Implement the streamlined quality assurance checks on a trial basis for this launch and gather feedback to decide on their long-term viability. Option C. Defer the more rigorous documentation verification and user acceptance testing sign-offs to the post-launch phase, focusing on core functionality for the initial release. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment of streamlining quality assurance checks, evaluating potential risks to program quality, regulatory compliance, and stakeholder trust, and propose alternative mitigation strategies if necessary. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment of streamlining quality assurance checks, evaluating potential risks to program quality, regulatory compliance, and stakeholder trust, and propose alternative mitigation strategies if necessary. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a certified programs leader, CPL, to balance the immediate need for program delivery with the long-term imperative of maintaining program quality and regulatory compliance. The CPL must exercise careful judgment in assessing the impact of potential shortcuts on both the program's integrity and its adherence to the specified regulatory framework. The core tension lies in managing stakeholder expectations for timely results against the risk of compromising quality assurance processes, which could lead to regulatory breaches and reputational damage. The correct approach involves a thorough impact assessment that prioritizes understanding the potential consequences of any deviation from established quality assurance and control procedures. This approach is right because it aligns with the fundamental principles of responsible program leadership and regulatory adherence. Specifically, it reflects the CPL's duty to ensure that programs are not only delivered efficiently, but also meet all mandated quality standards and regulatory requirements. By systematically evaluating the risks associated with proposed changes, the CPL can make informed decisions that safeguard the program's integrity and prevent potential noncompliance. This proactive stance is crucial for maintaining trust with regulators and stakeholders. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on expediting delivery without a proper impact assessment fails to acknowledge the inherent risks. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it prioritizes speed over compliance and quality, potentially leading to the delivery of a program that does not meet the required standards or is in violation of the regulatory framework. Such an approach disregards the CPL's responsibility to uphold the integrity of the program and the regulatory environment. Another incorrect approach that involves implementing changes based on anecdotal evidence or informal feedback without a structured impact assessment is also professionally unacceptable. This represents an ethical failure as it bypasses established governance and quality control mechanisms. It can lead to unintended negative consequences, such as introducing new defects or failing to address existing ones, thereby undermining the program's effectiveness and potentially creating regulatory issues. A third incorrect approach that involves deferring quality assurance activities to a later stage, assuming they can be retroactively addressed, is a significant regulatory and ethical lapse. This demonstrates a misunderstanding of the continuous nature of quality assurance and control. It increases the likelihood of undetected issues and can result in substantial remediation efforts, potentially exceeding the program's budget and timeline, and most importantly, risking noncompliance with ongoing regulatory obligations. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk-based approach. First, clearly define the proposed change or deviation. Second, identify all potential impacts on quality, compliance, and program objectives. Third, consult relevant regulatory guidance and internal policies to understand the implications of these impacts. Fourth, develop mitigation strategies for identified risks. Finally, document the assessment and the decision-making process, ensuring transparency and accountability. This systematic evaluation ensures that decisions are grounded in a comprehensive understanding of potential consequences and align with regulatory and ethical obligations. Question 4. When evaluating proposed quality standards and metrics for a new certified program, which approach best mitigates the risk of implementing ineffective or misleading indicators? Option A. Adopt metrics that are commonly used in similar certified programs, assuming they have been proven effective and compliant. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment of each proposed metric, considering its alignment with program objectives, potential for manipulation, and impact on stakeholders, in conjunction with relevant regulatory guidance. Option C. Delegate the selection and assessment of quality metrics entirely to the program's operational team to leverage their on-the-ground expertise. Option D. Prioritize metrics that demonstrate immediate, easily quantifiable positive results, even if they do not fully capture the program's long-term impact. Correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment of each proposed metric, considering its alignment with program objectives, potential for manipulation, and impact on stakeholders, in conjunction with relevant regulatory guidance. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for robust quality standards with the practical realities of program implementation and the potential for unintended consequences. The Certified Programs Leader, CPL, must ensure that quality metrics are not only measurable, but also genuinely reflective of program effectiveness and alignment with regulatory expectations, without creating undue burdens or misaligned incentives. Careful judgment is required to select metrics that are both meaningful and achievable, and to interpret the results in a way that drives continuous improvement rather than simply compliance. The correct approach involves a proactive and integrated risk assessment of proposed quality metrics. This means thoroughly evaluating each metric's potential to accurately measure program quality, its alignment with the program's stated objectives, and its susceptibility to manipulation or misinterpretation. It also necessitates considering the potential impact of these metrics on program participants and stakeholders, ensuring they do not inadvertently create barriers or lead to outcomes contrary to the program's intent or regulatory requirements. This approach is right because it embodies a principle of responsible program leadership, prioritizing genuine quality and ethical considerations over superficial compliance. It aligns with the CPL's duty to ensure programs are effective, efficient, and adhere to all applicable regulatory frameworks, fostering trust and accountability. An incorrect approach would be to adopt metrics solely based on their ease of measurement or their common use in similar programs without a thorough risk assessment. This failure stems from a lack of due diligence, potentially leading to the implementation of metrics that are irrelevant to the program's actual goals or that can be gamed, thereby providing a false sense of quality. This contravenes the ethical obligation to ensure program integrity and the regulatory requirement for programs to meet defined standards of effectiveness. Another incorrect approach is to focus exclusively on metrics that demonstrate immediate, quantifiable positive outcomes, ignoring potential long-term risks or negative externalities. This narrow focus can lead to short-sighted decision-making, where a program appears successful based on limited data, but may be causing harm or failing to achieve broader objectives. This is ethically unsound as it prioritizes a superficial appearance of success over genuine, sustainable program quality, and can lead to regulatory noncompliance if the unassessed risks materialize. A third incorrect approach is to delegate the selection and assessment of quality metrics entirely to operational teams without sufficient oversight or strategic input. While operational teams have valuable insights, this abdication of responsibility can lead to a disconnect between the metrics chosen and the overarching strategic goals of the program or the organization. It also bypasses the CPL's crucial role in ensuring that metrics are aligned with regulatory expectations and ethical standards, potentially resulting in a fragmented and ineffective quality management system. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, clearly define the program's objectives and intended outcomes. Second, brainstorm potential quality metrics that could measure progress towards these objectives. Third, conduct a comprehensive risk assessment for each proposed metric, considering its validity, reliability, potential for manipulation, and impact on stakeholders. Fourth, consult relevant regulatory guidance and ethical principles to ensure alignment. Finally, select metrics that are robust, meaningful, and contribute to the program's overall success and compliance, with a plan for ongoing review and adaptation. Question 5. The assessment process reveals that a certified programs leader, CPL, is managing a high-pressure project with a tight deadline. The team is showing signs of fatigue and decreased morale. The CPL is considering different leadership approaches to ensure project completion while maintaining ethical standards and team well-being. Which leadership approach best aligns with the principles of ethical and effective program leadership as expected of a CPL? Option A. Employ a transactional leadership style, offering performance-based bonuses for meeting milestones and implementing penalties for delays to incentivize rapid task completion. Option B. Implement an autocratic leadership style, issuing direct commands and closely monitoring all activities to ensure strict adherence to the timeline and project specifications, with minimal team input. Option C. Adopt a transformational leadership style, focusing on inspiring the team with the program's vision, empowering them to contribute their best, and fostering a supportive environment that encourages ethical decision-making. Option D. Utilize a laissez-faire leadership style, allowing the team to self-manage and make decisions independently, intervening only when critical issues arise to reduce perceived pressure. The correct answer is C. Adopt a transformational leadership style, focusing on inspiring the team with the program's vision, empowering them to contribute their best, and fostering a supportive environment that encourages ethical decision-making. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a leader to balance the immediate need for project completion with the long-term impact of their leadership style on team morale and ethical conduct, all within the specific regulatory framework of the Certified Programs Leader (CPL) designation. The CPL framework emphasizes ethical leadership, adherence to program management best practices, and fostering a sustainable, high-performing team environment. A leader's approach directly influences team engagement, adherence to quality standards, and ultimately, the success and integrity of the program. The correct approach involves a transformational leadership style that inspires and motivates the team by clearly articulating the program's vision and the importance of ethical conduct, while also providing support and opportunities for growth. This aligns with CPL principles of ethical stewardship and fostering a positive organizational culture. By focusing on shared goals and empowering team members, this style promotes intrinsic motivation and long-term commitment, which are crucial for program success and compliance. This approach is ethically sound as it respects individual contributions and promotes a culture of integrity, directly addressing the CPL's mandate for responsible program leadership. An autocratic leadership style, while potentially yielding short-term results, fails ethically and professionally by disregarding team input and fostering an environment of fear or compliance rather than genuine engagement. This can lead to burnout, reduced creativity, and a higher likelihood of ethical shortcuts being taken under pressure, violating the CPL's commitment to integrity. A laissez-faire approach, characterized by a lack of direction and oversight, is also professionally and ethically deficient. It can lead to confusion, missed deadlines, and a decline in quality, as team members may lack the guidance needed to navigate complex program requirements or ethical dilemmas. This abdication of leadership responsibility undermines the CPL's duty to ensure program success and compliance. A transactional leadership style, focused solely on rewards and punishments, can be insufficient in fostering the deep commitment and ethical awareness required for complex programs. While it can drive performance, it may not cultivate the proactive ethical behavior and intrinsic motivation that are hallmarks of exemplary CPL leadership. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical considerations and long-term program sustainability. This involves assessing the potential impact of different leadership styles on team well-being, ethical culture, and program objectives, aligning choices with the core tenets of the CPL designation. It requires proactive communication, active listening, and a commitment to developing team members, rather than solely focusing on immediate task completion. Question 6. The evaluation methodology shows a significant backlog in processing program applications, leading to increased operational costs and potential delays in service delivery. As a certified programs leader, you are tasked with identifying and implementing a process improvement methodology to address this. Considering the program operates under strict regulatory oversight that mandates specific data integrity checks and reporting timelines, which of the following approaches best balances efficiency gains with regulatory compliance? Option A. Adopting a rapid, agile development methodology to quickly redesign the application intake system, prioritizing speed of implementation over detailed process mapping or extensive regulatory impact assessments. Option B, introducing a waterfall project management approach to overhaul the entire application processing system in one go, with a focus on cost reduction through extensive automation, deferring detailed regulatory compliance checks to the final deployment stage. Option C, implementing a Lean Six Sigma approach, focusing on identifying and eliminating waste in the application processing workflow, with a strong emphasis on data analysis to validate process changes and ensure all regulatory data integrity requirements are met through controlled pilot phases. Option D, utilizing a purely heuristic approach, allowing individual team members to make ad hoc improvements to their specific tasks as they identify them, without a centralized coordination or formal regulatory review. Correct answer is C, implementing a Lean Six Sigma approach, focusing on identifying and eliminating waste in the application processing workflow, with a strong emphasis on data analysis to validate process changes and ensure all regulatory data integrity requirements are met through controlled pilot phases. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the drive for efficiency and cost reduction with the imperative to maintain program integrity and compliance with regulatory standards. The Certified Programs Leader, CPL, must navigate potential conflicts between departmental goals and overarching regulatory obligations, ensuring that any process improvement does not inadvertently lead to non-compliance or compromise the quality of services delivered. Careful judgment is required to select a methodology that is both effective for improvement and robust in its adherence to the specified regulatory framework. The correct approach involves a structured, data-driven assessment of existing processes, followed by the selection and implementation of a methodology that aligns with the program's objectives and regulatory requirements. This typically includes pilot testing, stakeholder engagement, and continuous monitoring to ensure the improvements are sustainable and compliant. For instance, if the regulatory framework emphasizes robust risk management and clear audit trails, the chosen methodology must facilitate these aspects. The ethical justification lies in upholding the program's mission and protecting the interests of its beneficiaries or stakeholders by ensuring efficient, effective, and compliant operations. An incorrect approach would be to adopt a methodology solely based on perceived speed or cost savings, without a thorough understanding of its implications for regulatory adherence. For example, implementing a rapid, top-down change without adequate stakeholder consultation or risk assessment could lead to unforeseen compliance gaps. Another failure would be to bypass established quality control or validation steps inherent in certain improvement methodologies, thereby increasing the risk of errors or noncompliance. Ethically, such shortcuts undermine the CPL's responsibility to ensure the program operates within legal and ethical boundaries. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes regulatory compliance and program integrity. This involves 1. Clearly defining the problem and desired outcomes. 2. Thoroughly researching and understanding the applicable regulatory framework. 3. Evaluating potential methodologies against both improvement goals and compliance requirements. 4. Conducting a risk assessment for each potential methodology. 5. Engaging relevant stakeholders in the decision-making process. 6. Implementing chosen methodologies with robust monitoring and feedback mechanisms. Question 7. Regulatory review indicates that a Certified Programs Leader, CPL, is managing a critical program with a tight deadline. During execution, a key stakeholder requests a significant scope change that, if implemented, would improve the program's ultimate business value, but would also deviate from the approved baseline. CPL believes the change is beneficial and can be implemented without impacting the overall timeline if minor adjustments are made to resource allocation. What is the most appropriate course of action for the CPL to ensure regulatory compliance and effective program governance? Option A. The CPL should inform the stakeholder that no scope changes are permissible due to the tight deadline and the need to adhere strictly to the original plan. Option B. The CPL should proceed with the scope change without formal approval, assuming the program steering committee would agree given the potential for increased business value. Option C. The CPL should immediately implement the scope change, documenting the decision and informing the program steering committee of the executed change and its rationale. Option D. The CPL should formally present the proposed scope change, its implications, and the proposed mitigation strategies to the Program Steering Committee for their review and formal approval before proceeding. The correct answer is C. The CPL should immediately implement the scope change, documenting the decision and informing the Program Steering Committee of the executed change and its rationale. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the Certified Programs Leader, CPL, to navigate conflicting demands between program delivery efficiency and the strict adherence to established governance protocols. The pressure to deliver a program quickly can tempt a CPL to bypass or streamline governance processes, potentially compromising oversight, risk management, and stakeholder accountability. The CPL must balance the immediate needs of the program with the long-term integrity and compliance of the organization's governance framework. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves the CPL proactively engaging the Program Steering Committee to formally document and approve any proposed changes to the program's scope or deliverables. This is the right professional practice because it upholds the principles of program governance, which mandate clear lines of authority, accountability, and change control. By seeking formal approval, the CPL ensures that any deviations from the original plan are transparent, assessed for their impact on objectives, risks, and resources, and are sanctioned by the appropriate governing body. This aligns with the CPL's responsibility to maintain program integrity and ensure that all significant decisions are made with proper oversight, as expected by regulatory frameworks governing program management and corporate governance. Incorrect approaches analysis. An incorrect approach would be for the CPL to unilaterally approve the scope changes based on the perceived urgency. This bypasses the established governance structure and undermines the authority of the Program Steering Committee. It represents a failure in accountability and transparency, potentially leading to unmanaged risks and misaligned program objectives, which is contrary to regulatory expectations for program oversight. Another incorrect approach would be for the CPL to proceed with the changes without any formal documentation or communication, assuming the steering committee would implicitly agree. This lack of formal process is a significant governance failure. It creates ambiguity regarding decision-making authority and can lead to disputes or misunderstandings later, violating the principle of clear and auditable governance. A further incorrect approach would be for the CPL to delay the program significantly by insisting on a full, formal replanning and reapproval process for minor scope adjustments, even if the steering committee is not immediately available. While adherence to process is important, an overly rigid application that cripples program progress without a clear justification for such extensive reevaluation can be counterproductive and may not align with the spirit of efficient program delivery, though it is less severe than outright bypassing governance. The key is to find a balance that respects governance while enabling effective program execution. Professional reasoning. Professionals in program leadership roles must prioritize adherence to established governance frameworks. When faced with situations that challenge these frameworks, the decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying the core governance principles at play, e.g., change control, accountability, oversight. 2. Assessing the impact of the proposed action on these principles and on program objectives. 3. Consulting the relevant governance documentation and seeking guidance from the designated governing bodies or senior management. 4. Documenting all decisions and communications transparently. 5. Escalating issues that cannot be resolved within the established framework. In this case, the CPL's primary duty is to ensure that program changes are managed through the approved governance channels, even when under pressure to deliver quickly. Question 8. Quality control measures reveal a significant operational risk within a key client program that could lead to substantial financial losses and potential regulatory breaches if not addressed immediately. The CPL is aware that reporting this risk promptly to senior management and compliance will trigger an immediate, potentially disruptive, investigation and could negatively impact the program's perceived stability. However, delaying the report might allow the risk to escalate, causing greater harm. What is the most appropriate course of action for the CPL? Option A. Immediately escalate the identified risk to senior management and the compliance department, providing a detailed account of the findings and potential implications, and recommend immediate remedial actions. Option B. Downplay the severity of the risk in the initial communication to senior management to avoid causing undue alarm and to allow for a more controlled response. Option C. Attempt to implement a minor, temporary fix to mitigate the immediate impact while gathering more information before formally reporting the risk. Option D. Delay reporting the risk until a comprehensive solution has been fully developed and tested to present a complete resolution rather than an ongoing problem. Correct answer is A. Immediately escalate the identified risk to senior management and the compliance department, providing a detailed account of the findings and potential implications, and recommend immediate remedial actions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need to address a critical risk with the potential for significant reputational damage and financial implications if the risk is not handled transparently and ethically. The certified program's leader, CPL, must exercise sound judgment, adhering strictly to the regulatory framework governing their operations, which in this case is assumed to be the UK regulatory framework and CISI guidelines. The core of the challenge lies in prioritizing risk mitigation while upholding ethical obligations to stakeholders, including clients and regulatory bodies. The correct approach involves immediate escalation and transparent communication. This aligns with the UK's regulatory emphasis on treating customers fairly and maintaining market integrity, as well as CISI Code of Conduct, which mandates professional integrity and acting in the best interests of clients and the market. By promptly reporting the identified risk to senior management and the relevant compliance function, the CPL ensures that appropriate resources are allocated for investigation and remediation. This proactive stance demonstrates accountability and adherence to regulatory requirements for risk management and reporting. An incorrect approach would be to downplay the severity of the risk to avoid immediate scrutiny or to delay reporting in the hope that the issue might resolve itself. This failure to escalate promptly violates regulatory obligations to manage risks effectively and report significant issues. It also breaches ethical duties to act with diligence and integrity, potentially exposing clients and the firm to greater harm. Furthermore, attempting to conceal or minimize the risk could lead to severe regulatory sanctions, reputational damage, and loss of client trust. Another incorrect approach would be to implement a superficial fix without proper investigation or reporting. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to address the root cause of the risk, which is a direct contravention of regulatory expectations for robust risk management systems and controls. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process when faced with such dilemmas. This involves 1. Identifying the risk and its potential impact, referencing relevant regulatory requirements and ethical codes. 2. Assessing the severity and likelihood of the risk. 3. Determining the most appropriate course of action based on regulatory obligations and ethical principles, prioritizing transparency and timely reporting. 4. Documenting all actions taken and decisions made. 5. Seeking guidance from compliance and senior management when in doubt. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are well-reasoned, compliant, and ethically sound. Question 9. Stakeholder feedback indicates a desire for a highly detailed work breakdown structure, WBS, that captures every minute task, but the project team has limited time for extensive WBS decomposition before the next phase begins. Which approach to WBS development best balances these competing demands while adhering to program leadership principles? Option A. Prioritize the input of the most senior stakeholders to quickly finalize a high-level WBS, assuming their requirements encompass all critical elements. Option B. Create a comprehensive WBS incorporating every conceivable task requested by any stakeholder, deferring detailed review and validation until later in the project lifecycle. Option C. Develop the WBS to a level of detail that supports effective planning and control for the current phase, with a clear plan for further decomposition as the project progresses and more information becomes available. Option D. Delegate the WBS development entirely to individual team leads, allowing them to decompose tasks as they see fit without a centralized review process. The correct answer is C. Develop the WBS to a level of detail that supports effective planning and control for the current phase, with a clear plan for further decomposition as the project progresses and more information becomes available. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for detailed project planning with the practical constraints of stakeholder availability and the potential for scope creep. The Certified Programs Leader (CPL) must ensure the work breakdown structure (WBS) is robust enough to guide execution while remaining adaptable to evolving stakeholder input. The core challenge lies in achieving a consensus on the WBS's granularity and content without compromising the project's integrity or timeline. The correct approach involves a structured, iterative process of WBS development that actively incorporates stakeholder feedback at defined stages. This method ensures that the WBS accurately reflects project scope and objectives, aligns with stakeholder expectations, and is sufficiently detailed for effective management. This aligns with best practices in program management, emphasizing clear scope definition and stakeholder engagement, which are foundational to successful project delivery and are implicitly supported by the principles of good governance and accountability expected of a CPL. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the most senior stakeholders' initial input risks, overlooking critical details or requirements from other essential parties, leading to incomplete scope definition and potential rework. This failure to engage a broader set of stakeholders is a significant risk to program success and can lead to disputes and dissatisfaction. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate completion of the WBS without thorough validation with all relevant stakeholders can result in a WBS that does not accurately represent the project's true scope or objectives. This can lead to misallocation of resources, missed deliverables, and ultimately, project failure, violating the CPL's responsibility to ensure accurate project planning. A third incorrect approach that allows for continuous, unstructured stakeholder input without a defined process for integration can lead to scope creep and an unmanageable WBS. This lack of control over scope definition undermines the planning process and can derail the project's objectives, demonstrating a failure in program governance. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes clear scope definition, stakeholder engagement, and iterative refinement. This involves establishing a WBS development plan that outlines how and when stakeholders will be involved, defining clear criteria for WBS acceptance, and implementing a change control process to manage any subsequent modifications. The CPL must act as a facilitator, ensuring that all relevant perspectives are considered and integrated into a coherent and actionable WBS. Question 10. Process analysis reveals that a new certified program is being developed, and the Certified Programs Leader, CPL, is responsible for ensuring its successful implementation and adherence to all regulatory requirements. The CPL needs to identify and analyze the stakeholders involved to manage their expectations and influence effectively. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for managing stakeholders in this context? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive stakeholder mapping exercise that considers all parties with a potential interest or influence on the program, including regulatory bodies, end users, internal departments, and external partners, assessing their level of influence, interest, and potential impact on regulatory compliance. Option B. Prioritize identifying and engaging stakeholders who have the most direct financial stake in the program's success and those who have historically been most vocal in program development discussions. Option C. Focus primarily on stakeholders who are perceived as having the least resistance to the program's objectives, as this will streamline the engagement process and reduce potential conflicts. Option D. Rely on informal conversations and existing relationships to identify key stakeholders, assuming that all critical parties will naturally make their interests known. The correct answer is B. Prioritize identifying and engaging stakeholders who have the most direct financial stake in the program's success, and those who have historically been most vocal in program development discussions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the CPL must navigate the complex and often competing interests of various stakeholders involved in a certified program. The core difficulty lies in accurately identifying all relevant parties, understanding their influence and impact, and then developing strategies to engage them effectively and ethically, all while adhering to the specific regulatory framework governing certified programs. Failure to do so can lead to program delays, non-compliance, reputational damage, and ultimately, the failure of the certification itself. Careful judgment is required to balance these diverse needs and expectations within the defined legal and ethical boundaries. The correct approach involves a systematic and comprehensive stakeholder identification and analysis process that is grounded in the principles of good governance and regulatory compliance. This approach prioritizes understanding the regulatory obligations and the specific requirements of the certification body, ensuring that all identified stakeholders are assessed for their potential impact on the program's adherence to these standards. It involves mapping stakeholders based on their power, interest, and influence, and then developing tailored engagement strategies that are transparent, fair, and aligned with the program's objectives and regulatory mandates. This ensures that the program operates within the established legal and ethical framework, fostering trust and accountability. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on identifying stakeholders with direct financial interests or those who are most vocal overlooks critical regulatory requirements and can lead to the exclusion of parties whose input is essential for compliance. This failure to consider all relevant stakeholders, particularly those with oversight or regulatory authority, can result in noncompliance with program standards and legal obligations, exposing the program and the organization to significant risks. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes only those stakeholders who are perceived as easiest to manage or who offer the least resistance neglects the importance of addressing potential challenges and concerns proactively. This can lead to unforeseen obstacles and opposition later in the program lifecycle, potentially jeopardizing its successful implementation and certification. It also fails to uphold the ethical principle of inclusivity and fairness in stakeholder engagement. A third incorrect approach that relies on informal or ad hoc methods for stakeholder identification and analysis without a structured framework increases the likelihood of overlooking key individuals or groups. This lack of rigor can result in incomplete information, biased assessments, and ultimately, a failure to anticipate and mitigate risks effectively, potentially leading to breaches of regulatory requirements or ethical standards. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured, risk-based approach to stakeholder management. This begins with a thorough understanding of the program's objectives and the applicable regulatory landscape. The CPL should then employ systematic methods for identifying all potential stakeholders, categorizing them based on their influence, interest, and potential impact on regulatory compliance and program success. A robust analysis should follow, assessing each stakeholder's needs, expectations, and potential contributions or obstacles. Finally, the CPL must develop and implement a tailored engagement plan that is transparent, ethical, and designed to foster constructive relationships while ensuring adherence to all regulatory and legal obligations. Question 11. Research into building and maintaining relationships within a program context. A certified programs leader, CPL, is tasked with optimizing operational processes to enhance efficiency. Considering the CPL's responsibility to foster strong stakeholder connections, which approach best balances process improvement with relationship integrity. Option A. Proactively involve key stakeholders in the process optimization design and implementation phases, seeking their input and transparently communicating the rationale and expected benefits of proposed changes. Option B. Implement process optimizations unilaterally based on internal analysis, informing stakeholders of the changes only after they have been finalized and deployed. Option C. Conduct a superficial review of potential stakeholder impacts and proceed with optimizations that offer the most immediate cost savings, providing minimal detail to stakeholders. Option D. Focus exclusively on achieving the highest possible efficiency metrics, with stakeholder engagement being a secondary consideration, addressed only if significant resistance arises. The correct answer is A. Proactively involve key stakeholders in the process optimization design and implementation phases, seeking their input and transparently communicating the rationale and expected benefits of proposed changes. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need for program efficiency with the long-term imperative of maintaining strong, trust-based relationships with key stakeholders. The Certified Programs Leader, CPL, must navigate potential conflicts between operational demands and the nuanced requirements of stakeholder engagement, all while adhering to the specific regulatory framework governing their practice. Careful judgment is required to ensure that process optimization does not inadvertently erode the foundation of trust and collaboration essential for program success. The correct approach involves proactively engaging stakeholders in the process optimization initiative, seeking their input, and clearly communicating the rationale and expected benefits. This fosters a sense of ownership and collaboration, mitigating potential resistance and ensuring that the optimized processes align with stakeholder needs and expectations. This aligns with the ethical principles of transparency, fairness, and accountability, which are foundational to building and maintaining robust professional relationships. Specifically, regulatory guidelines often emphasize the importance of clear communication and consultation with affected parties to ensure compliance and foster good governance. An incorrect approach that prioritizes unilateral decision-making and implementation without stakeholder consultation fails to acknowledge the vital role of these relationships. This can lead to misunderstandings, resentment, and a breakdown in trust, ultimately hindering program effectiveness and potentially violating ethical obligations to act in good faith with all parties. Such an approach may also contravene specific regulatory requirements that mandate consultation or impact assessments for changes affecting stakeholders. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on the perceived efficiency gains, without considering the impact on stakeholder relationships, overlooks the qualitative aspects of program management. While efficiency is important, it should not come at the expense of the collaborative environment necessary for sustainable program success. This approach risks alienating stakeholders and creating an adversarial dynamic, which is contrary to the principles of ethical professional conduct and may lead to noncompliance with broader regulatory expectations regarding stakeholder engagement. A further incorrect approach that involves delaying communication or providing incomplete information about the optimization process creates an environment of suspicion and uncertainty. This erodes trust and can lead stakeholders to believe that their interests are not being considered, potentially triggering defensive reactions or formal complaints. This lack of transparency is a direct ethical failure and can lead to regulatory scrutiny. Professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, identify all key stakeholders and understand their interests and potential concerns regarding the proposed optimization. Second, develop a clear communication and engagement plan that outlines how and when stakeholders will be consulted and informed. Third, actively solicit and incorporate feedback, demonstrating a genuine commitment to addressing their perspectives. Finally, continuously monitor the impact of the optimized processes on stakeholder relationships and be prepared to make adjustments as needed, ensuring ongoing alignment with both ethical standards and regulatory requirements. Question 12. To address the challenge of a certified program consistently underperforming against its key performance indicators, which approach to root cause analysis would best align with the principles of effective program leadership and regulatory compliance? Option A. Implement immediate, cosmetic changes to the program's presentation without investigating underlying operational issues. Option B. Systematically gather data, identify all contributing factors, and determine the most significant root cause, through a structured investigation. Option C. Conduct a series of rapid, ad hoc interventions targeting the most obvious symptoms of underperformance. Option D. Focus exclusively on external market conditions as the sole explanation for the program's underperformance. The correct answer is C. Conduct a series of rapid, ad hoc interventions targeting the most obvious symptoms of underperformance. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the certified program's leader, CPL, to move beyond superficial problem solving and identify the fundamental reasons for a program's underperformance. The pressure to demonstrate immediate results can lead to quick fixes that fail to address the root causes, potentially leading to recurring issues and wasted resources. Careful judgment is required to balance the need for timely action with the necessity of thorough investigation, ensuring that the chosen root cause analysis approach aligns with the program's objectives and the regulatory environment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves systematically investigating the underlying causes of the program's underperformance by gathering data, identifying contributing factors, and determining the most significant root cause. This aligns with the principles of effective program management and risk mitigation, which are implicitly supported by the regulatory framework governing certified programs. By focusing on root cause analysis, the CPL demonstrates a commitment to continuous improvement and adherence to best practices, ensuring that corrective actions are targeted and sustainable. This proactive approach helps prevent future failures and enhances the program's overall effectiveness and compliance. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing immediate, superficial fixes without a thorough investigation fails to address the underlying issues. This approach is professionally unacceptable, as it neglects the core responsibility of understanding why a program is underperforming, potentially leading to a cycle of recurring problems and a failure to meet program objectives. It also risks violating the implicit expectation within regulatory frameworks for diligent oversight and effective problem resolution. Focusing solely on the most visible symptom of underperformance, rather than exploring all contributing factors, is another professionally unacceptable approach. This narrow focus can lead to misdiagnosis and the implementation of ineffective solutions. It demonstrates a lack of comprehensive risk assessment and a failure to consider the interconnectedness of program elements, which is crucial for robust program management. Attributing the underperformance to external, uncontrollable factors without investigating internal processes is also professionally unsound. While external factors can play a role, a responsible CPL must first exhaust all avenues of internal investigation to ensure that the program itself is optimized. This approach abdicates responsibility and fails to identify potential areas for internal improvement, which is a fundamental ethical and professional obligation. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, evidence-based approach to root cause analysis. This involves defining the problem clearly, gathering relevant data, employing analytical tools to identify potential causes, testing hypotheses, and implementing and monitoring corrective actions. The decision-making process should prioritize thoroughness and accuracy over speed, ensuring that actions taken are based on a deep understanding of the problem's origins. Professionals must also consider the regulatory environment and ethical obligations to ensure that their actions are both effective and compliant. Question 13. Analysis of a situation where a program leader is tasked with developing a program charter for a new strategic initiative. The organization is experiencing significant market pressure, and there is a strong desire to launch the program quickly. The program leader needs to decide on the most appropriate approach to program charter development that balances the need for speed with the requirement for a comprehensive and effective charter. Which of the following approaches best aligns with professional program leadership principles and the Certified Programs Leader (CPL) framework? Option A. Rely primarily on the program sponsor's documented vision and initial brief, with minimal consultation with other stakeholders, to expedite the charter's creation and gain immediate sponsor sign-off. Option B. Delegate the entire drafting of the program charter to a senior project manager within the team, providing only general guidance and expecting them to produce a final document for review. Option C. Develop a concise program charter that outlines high-level objectives and key deliverables, focusing on rapid approval and initiation, with detailed scope and governance to be elaborated during the program execution phase. Option D. Facilitate a series of workshops with all identified key stakeholders, including business units, IT, finance, and legal, to collaboratively define the program's vision, objectives, scope, key risks, and governance structure, ensuring consensus before finalization. The correct answer is C. Develop a concise program charter that outlines high-level objectives and key deliverables, focusing on rapid approval and initiation, with detailed scope and governance to be elaborated during the program execution phase. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the program leader must balance the need for a comprehensive and well-defined program charter with the pressure to expedite program initiation. The program charter is a foundational document that establishes the program's objectives, scope, stakeholders, and governance. Developing it inadequately can lead to scope creep, misaligned expectations, and ultimately, program failure. The program leader's judgment is critical in ensuring the charter is robust enough to guide the program effectively, while also being realistic about the time and resources available for its development. The correct approach involves a structured, collaborative development process for the program charter, ensuring all key stakeholders are consulted and their input is incorporated. This aligns with the principles of good governance and program management best practices, which emphasize clear communication, defined roles and responsibilities, and documented decision-making. Specifically, Within the Certified Programs Leader (CPL) framework, the emphasis is on establishing a clear mandate and authority for the program, which is directly achieved through a well-articulated program charter. This ensures that the program's objectives are understood and agreed upon by all parties, thereby mitigating risks and setting the stage for successful execution. An incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over thoroughness by creating a minimal charter with broad, undefined objectives is professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a lack of adherence to the fundamental purpose of the program charter, which is to provide clarity and direction. Such an approach risks misinterpretation, stakeholder dissatisfaction, and a lack of accountability, directly contravening the CPL's responsibility to establish a sound governance framework. Another incorrect approach that relies solely on the program sponsor's personal vision without engaging other key stakeholders is also professionally flawed. While the sponsor's vision is crucial, a program charter developed in isolation neglects the diverse perspectives and potential impacts on other critical parties. This can lead to resistance, lack of buy-in, and ultimately, the program failing to achieve its intended benefits due to unaddressed stakeholder concerns. This violates the principle of inclusive stakeholder engagement, a cornerstone of effective program leadership. Finally, an approach that delegates the entire charter development to a junior team member without adequate oversight or review is a significant professional failing. While delegation is a valuable management tool, the program charter is a high-level strategic document that requires the program leader's direct involvement and ultimate accountability. This abdication of responsibility can result in a charter that is incomplete, misaligned with strategic goals, or lacking the necessary authority, thereby undermining the program's foundation and the program leader's professional integrity. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the program charter's purpose and its role in program governance. It requires proactive stakeholder identification and engagement, a commitment to thoroughness even under time pressure, and a willingness to challenge assumptions or shortcuts that compromise the charter's integrity. The program leader must act as a facilitator and arbiter, ensuring the charter is a true reflection of agreed-upon objectives and a robust guide for program execution. Question 14. The investigation demonstrates that a newly launched certified program, aiming to meet stringent industry standards under the Certified Programs Leader (CPL) framework, is facing challenges in its initial operational phase due to a lack of clear oversight and accountability mechanisms. The program director is proposing several governance models to address these issues. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the principles of establishing robust governance structures as required by the CPL framework? Option A. Delegate all governance responsibilities to the existing operational management team, trusting their expertise to manage oversight and accountability within their day-to-day operations. Option B. Create a committee composed exclusively of individuals with deep technical expertise in the program's subject matter, excluding those with experience in broader governance or risk management functions. Option C. Form a committee with a broad, undefined mandate and no clear reporting structure, allowing members to contribute as they see fit to address governance concerns. Option D. Establish a dedicated program governance committee with clearly defined roles, responsibilities, and reporting lines, comprising individuals with diverse expertise including risk management and compliance, to provide strategic oversight and ensure adherence to CPL standards. The correct answer is D. Establish a dedicated program governance committee with clearly defined roles, responsibilities, and reporting lines, comprising individuals with diverse expertise including risk management and compliance, to provide strategic oversight and ensure adherence to CPL standards. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because establishing effective governance structures for a certified program requires balancing the program's objectives with the need for robust oversight, accountability, and compliance with the Certified Programs Leader (CPL) regulatory framework. The CPL framework, as defined by the relevant regulatory body, assuming UK/CISI for this example, as no specific jurisdiction was provided, but adhering to the constraint of a single jurisdiction, mandates specific requirements for program governance to ensure integrity and public trust. Careful judgment is required to select the governance model that best aligns with these mandates while allowing for program flexibility and efficiency. The correct approach involves establishing a dedicated program governance committee with clearly defined roles, responsibilities, and reporting lines, as stipulated by CPL guidelines. This committee should comprise individuals with diverse expertise relevant to the program's scope and risks, including representation from key stakeholders. Its mandate would include strategic oversight, risk management, compliance monitoring, and ensuring adherence to CPL standards. This approach is correct because it directly addresses the CPL's emphasis on structured oversight and accountability, fostering transparency and ensuring that program decisions are made in accordance with regulatory requirements and ethical principles. The clear definition of roles prevents ambiguity and potential conflicts of interest, which are critical for maintaining the program's certified status. An incorrect approach would be to delegate all governance responsibilities to the existing operational management team without establishing a separate, dedicated governance body. This is incorrect because it risks a conflict of interest, where operational expediency might override rigorous governance and compliance. The CPL framework typically requires independent oversight to ensure objectivity, which this approach lacks. Another incorrect approach would be to form a committee with a broad, undefined mandate and no clear reporting structure. This is incorrect as it leads to a lack of accountability and can result in diffused responsibility, making it difficult to identify who is ultimately responsible for governance failures. The CPL framework emphasizes clear lines of accountability, which this approach undermines. A further incorrect approach would be to establish a committee composed solely of individuals with technical expertise in the program's subject matter, excluding those with experience in risk management, compliance, or broader strategic oversight. This is incorrect because effective governance requires a multidisciplinary perspective to identify and mitigate a wider range of risks, not just technical ones. The CPL framework expects a holistic approach to program governance. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough understanding of the specific CPL regulatory requirements for program governance. This includes identifying the mandated components of a governance structure, the necessary expertise of committee members, and the reporting and accountability mechanisms. Professionals should then assess the program's specific risks and objectives to tailor a governance structure that is both compliant and effective. This involves a risk-based approach, ensuring that the chosen structure adequately addresses potential vulnerabilities and promotes ethical conduct and regulatory adherence. Question 15. During the evaluation of a new certified program's progress, a key stakeholder expresses significant dissatisfaction with the current pace of development, demanding accelerated timelines that are demonstrably unachievable given resource constraints and technical complexities. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the certified program's leader, CPL, regulatory framework, and ethical guidelines for managing stakeholder expectations? Option A. Reassuring the stakeholder that all efforts are being made to meet their desired timeline, without explicitly detailing the specific obstacles, and promising to expedite the process as much as possible, hoping that unforeseen efficiencies will emerge. Option B. Informing the stakeholder that their expectations are unrealistic and that the current plan is the only viable option, without offering any alternative solutions or further engagement on the timeline. Option C. Acknowledging the stakeholder's concerns, providing a transparent explanation of the current resource limitations and technical challenges, and proposing a revised, realistic timeline with clear milestones, while also exploring potential avenues for phased delivery or scope adjustments that can be achieved within the existing constraints. Option D. Agreeing to the stakeholder's accelerated timeline to maintain goodwill, with the intention of addressing any resulting shortfalls or compromises in quality after the fact, and hoping the stakeholder will be understanding. The correct answer is C. Acknowledging the stakeholder's concerns, providing a transparent explanation of the current resource limitations and technical challenges, and proposing a revised, realistic timeline with clear milestones, while also exploring potential avenues for phased delivery or scope adjustments that can be achieved within the existing constraints. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because managing stakeholder expectations in a certified program requires a delicate balance between delivering on promises and acknowledging limitations, all while adhering to the stringent regulatory framework of the certified program's leader, CPL, designation. The CPL framework emphasizes transparency, ethical conduct, and a commitment to the integrity of certified programs. Mismanaging expectations can lead to reputational damage for the individual, the program, and the certifying body, potentially violating ethical guidelines related to professional competence and due diligence. Careful judgment is required to ensure that all communications are accurate, realistic, and aligned with the program's objectives and the regulatory standards. The correct approach involves proactively identifying potential discrepancies between stakeholder desires and program realities, and then communicating these clearly and constructively. This approach upholds the CPL's ethical obligation to be truthful and to manage resources responsibly. By engaging stakeholders early and often, and by providing data-driven insights into program progress and potential challenges, the CPL demonstrates professional integrity and builds trust. This aligns with the CPL's duty to maintain the credibility of the certification by ensuring programs are delivered as promised, within defined parameters, and in accordance with all applicable regulations. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on appeasing stakeholders by overpromising or downplaying risks is ethically unsound. This violates the CPL's duty of honesty and can lead to a breach of trust, potentially misrepresenting the program's capabilities or outcomes. Such an approach fails to uphold the professional standards expected of a CPL, which include a commitment to accurate representation and responsible program management. Another incorrect approach that involves avoiding difficult conversations or delaying communication about challenges is equally problematic. This demonstrates a lack of professional courage and can exacerbate issues, leading to greater disappointment and distrust among stakeholders. It also fails to meet the CPL's obligation to provide timely and accurate information, which is crucial for effective program governance and stakeholder engagement. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough assessment of stakeholder needs and expectations against the program's actual capabilities and constraints. This requires open and honest communication, the use of objective data to support assessments, and a willingness to negotiate realistic outcomes. Professionals should always prioritize transparency, ethical conduct, and adherence to the CPL regulatory framework, ensuring that all actions and communications are defensible and contribute to the long-term integrity of the certified program. Question 16. The control framework reveals that a critical program initiative is falling behind schedule due to unforeseen technical challenges and a perceived lack of team cohesion. The certified program's leader, CPL, is under pressure from senior management to deliver the initiative on time. Considering the CPL's responsibilities for program success and team leadership, which of the following approaches best aligns with the CPL's ethical and regulatory obligations? Option A. Increase pressure on the team by setting more aggressive deadlines and emphasizing the consequences of failure, assuming that the team will naturally find a way to overcome their issues under duress. Option B. Focus solely on the technical aspects of the problem, assigning additional technical experts to resolve the issues while deferring any discussions about team cohesion until after the immediate crisis has passed. Option C. Proactively engage team members to understand their challenges, solicit feedback on workload and potential solutions, and collaboratively adjust project plans and resource allocation to address both technical hurdles and team dynamics. Option D. Implement a top-down restructuring of team roles and responsibilities, reassigning tasks based on perceived individual strengths without consulting the team to force a more efficient workflow. Correct answer is C. Proactively engage team members to understand their challenges, solicit feedback on workload and potential solutions, and collaboratively adjust project plans and resource allocation to address both technical hurdles and team dynamics. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a leader to balance immediate project needs with the long-term health and effectiveness of their team, all while adhering to the principles of ethical leadership and program management as defined by the Certified Programs Leader (CPL) framework. The pressure to deliver results can tempt a leader to overlook foundational team dynamics, potentially leading to burnout, reduced morale, and ultimately, program failure. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the chosen approach fosters a sustainable and high-performing team environment. The correct approach involves actively soliciting feedback from team members regarding their workload, skill development opportunities, and overall team dynamics, and then using this feedback to adjust project plans and resource allocation. This aligns with CPL principles that emphasize stakeholder engagement and adaptive management. Ethically, it demonstrates respect for team members as individuals with valuable insights and promotes a culture of transparency and continuous improvement. Regulatory guidance within the CPL framework implicitly supports this by advocating for robust program governance that includes mechanisms for feedback and adaptation, ensuring that programs remain aligned with objectives and are executed efficiently and ethically. An incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate task completion over team well-being fails to acknowledge the human element crucial for program success. This can lead to ethical breaches by creating an environment where team members feel undervalued or exploited, potentially violating principles of fair treatment and professional conduct expected of CPLs. Such an approach also risks regulatory noncompliance if it leads to breaches of employment law or internal CPL program guidelines concerning employee welfare and development. Another incorrect approach that involves making unilateral decisions about team structure and responsibilities without consulting the team ignores the expertise and experience of those directly involved. This can undermine trust and collaboration, key components of effective team building. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of inclusivity and can be seen as disregarding the professional judgment of team members. From a CPL perspective, this approach is detrimental to fostering a collaborative environment and can hinder the effective execution of program objectives by failing to leverage the collective intelligence of the team. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, clearly define the problem or challenge, considering both immediate project demands and long-term team health. Second, identify potential solutions, evaluating each against CPL principles, ethical considerations, and potential impact on team morale and performance. Third, gather relevant information, which in this case would involve direct communication with the team. Fourth, select the most appropriate solution based on this comprehensive evaluation. Finally, implement the chosen solution and monitor its effectiveness, being prepared to make further adjustments as needed. This iterative process ensures that decisions are well-informed, ethically sound, and aligned with the overarching goals of program leadership. Question 17. Cost-benefit analysis shows that streamlining the quality audit process for certified programs could lead to significant time and resource savings. As a certified programs leader, CPL, you are considering adjustments to the current audit procedures. Which of the following approaches best balances efficiency with the imperative to maintain robust quality assurance and regulatory compliance? Option A. Implement a phased approach to audit process refinement, beginning with standardizing documentation templates and optimizing sampling methodologies based on statistical analysis of historical data, while ensuring auditor independence and sufficient scope are maintained. Option B. Focus audit efforts primarily on easily quantifiable performance indicators and eliminate qualitative assessments that are more subjective and time-consuming to evaluate. Option C. Reduce the frequency of audits for programs that have consistently achieved high scores in previous assessments, reallocating audit resources to newer or lower-performing programs. Option D. Delegate the responsibility for conducting internal quality audits to the program managers themselves, with a requirement for them to submit summary reports to the CPL office. The correct answer is A. Implement a phased approach to audit process refinement, beginning with standardizing documentation templates and optimizing sampling methodologies based on statistical analysis of historical data, while ensuring auditor independence and sufficient scope are maintained. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the perceived efficiency gains of a streamlined audit process against the fundamental requirement for thoroughness and independence in quality assurance. The Certified Programs Leader, CPL, must ensure that any adjustments to the quality audit process do not compromise its integrity or its ability to identify and address potential program deficiencies, which could have significant implications for client trust and regulatory compliance. The challenge lies in discerning where efficiency improvements can be made without sacrificing the critical elements of a robust quality audit. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing quality audit procedures, focusing on identifying areas where documentation can be standardized or where sampling methodologies can be refined to maintain statistical validity while reducing the time spent on individual audits. This approach prioritizes maintaining the core principles of quality assurance, such as independence of the auditor, sufficient scope, to cover key risks, and the generation of actionable findings, while seeking to optimize resource allocation. This aligns with the CPL's responsibility to ensure programs meet established quality standards and regulatory expectations, as mandated by the CPL's governing body and relevant program certifications. The ethical imperative is to uphold the integrity of the certification process and to provide assurance to stakeholders that certified programs are operating to a high standard. An incorrect approach would be to reduce the sample size of audits arbitrarily or to eliminate certain audit steps solely based on time savings, without a rigorous assessment of the impact on the audit's effectiveness. This would be a regulatory failure because it could lead to undetected program noncompliance, thereby undermining the credibility of the certification and potentially violating the standards set by the certifying body. Ethically, it represents a dereliction of duty to ensure program quality and could mislead stakeholders about the true state of program adherence to standards. Another incorrect approach would be to allow program managers to conduct self-audits without independent oversight or validation. This creates a conflict of interest and compromises the independence of the audit function, a cornerstone of effective quality assurance. This would be a significant regulatory failure, as most certification frameworks require independent assessment to ensure objectivity. Ethically, it would be a breach of trust, as stakeholders rely on independent verification of program quality. A further incorrect approach would be to focus audit efforts exclusively on easily measurable quantitative metrics while neglecting qualitative aspects of program delivery. While quantitative data is important, many critical aspects of program quality, such as client satisfaction, ethical conduct, and the effectiveness of support mechanisms, are best assessed through qualitative review and observation. Neglecting these areas would lead to an incomplete picture of program quality, potentially missing significant risks, and failing to meet the comprehensive requirements of program certification. This would be a regulatory failure, as it would not ensure adherence to all stipulated program standards, and an ethical failure in not providing a holistic assurance of program quality. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough risk assessment of any proposed changes to the quality audit process. This includes evaluating the potential impact on audit effectiveness, independence, and compliance with regulatory requirements. The CPL should consult relevant CPL guidelines and regulatory frameworks to ensure any modifications are permissible and do not dilute the rigor of the quality assurance function. Engaging stakeholders, including auditors and program managers, in the review process can provide valuable insights and foster buy-in for any necessary adjustments. Ultimately, the decision must prioritize the integrity and credibility of the certified programs and the certification itself. Question 18. Comparative studies suggest that program leaders often face pressure to present performance data in the most favorable light. As a certified programs leader, CPL, you have compiled performance metrics for a key initiative. The data indicates that while some objectives have been met, a significant number of key performance indicators, KPI, are trending below target, impacting overall program effectiveness. You are preparing the quarterly performance report for senior management and the funding body. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound approach to reporting these findings? Option A. Focus the report primarily on the KPIs that have met or exceeded targets, briefly mentioning the underperforming KPIs without detailed analysis or explanation. Option B. Recategorize the underperforming KPIs or adjust the reporting thresholds to make the results appear more positive, arguing that the current metrics are too stringent. Option C. Delay the submission of the quarterly report until further data can be collected, hoping that subsequent improvements will present a more favorable overall picture. Option D. Present all collected performance data objectively, including both positive and negative results, and provide a clear explanation of the factors contributing to the underperformance and the mitigation strategies being implemented. The correct answer is D. Present all collected performance data objectively, including both positive and negative results, and provide a clear explanation of the factors contributing to the underperformance and the mitigation strategies being implemented. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it forces a certified programs leader, CPL, to balance the desire to present favorable performance data with the ethical and regulatory obligation to report accurately and transparently. The CPL must navigate potential pressure to manage results, which can compromise the integrity of performance measurement and reporting. Careful judgment is required to ensure that reporting practices align with professional standards and regulatory expectations, preventing misrepresentation of program effectiveness. The correct approach involves a commitment to objective data collection and reporting, even when the results are not ideal. This means presenting performance metrics as they are, without manipulation or selective omission. This aligns with the core ethical principles of honesty and integrity expected of CPLs and adheres to regulatory frameworks that mandate accurate and transparent reporting of program outcomes. Such an approach builds trust with stakeholders and ensures that decisions are based on a true understanding of program performance. An incorrect approach that involves selectively highlighting only positive metrics while downplaying or omitting negative ones constitutes a failure of transparency and honesty. This misrepresents the program's true performance, potentially leading stakeholders to make decisions based on flawed information. This practice violates ethical duties of candor and can contravene regulations requiring comprehensive and unbiased reporting. Another incorrect approach, which involves reinterpreting or recategorizing negative performance data to appear more favorable, is a form of data manipulation. This undermines the credibility of the reporting process and can be seen as deceptive. It fails to meet the professional standard of presenting data in its original, unadulterated form and can lead to regulatory scrutiny for misrepresentation. A further incorrect approach, which is to delay reporting of unfavorable results in the hope that future improvements will offset them, is also ethically problematic. While well-intentioned, it still involves withholding crucial information from stakeholders, preventing them from making timely and informed decisions. This lack of prompt and complete disclosure is a breach of professional responsibility. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the reporting requirements and ethical obligations. A CPL should first identify the key performance indicators and the data collection methods. They should then critically assess the data for accuracy and completeness. If the data reveals unfavorable results, the professional should resist any temptation to alter or omit it. Instead, the focus should be on providing context and explanations for the performance and outlining steps being taken to address any shortcomings. Consulting with supervisors or compliance officers if unsure about reporting practices is also a crucial step in ensuring adherence to professional and regulatory standards. Question 19. Compliance review shows a significant risk of non-compliance with data protection regulations due to a new program feature that inadvertently collects more personal data than necessary. The primary stakeholders affected by this data collection are the program participants themselves. What is the most appropriate risk response planning approach for the certified program's leader? Option A. Implement a minimal technical adjustment to reduce data collection slightly, prioritizing the avoidance of any immediate program disruption or participant dissatisfaction, and plan for a more thorough review in the next fiscal year. Option B. Immediately implement a technical fix to disable the data collection feature, followed by a communication to participants explaining the change. Option C. Convene a working group with representatives from program participants, legal, and IT to collaboratively design and implement a revised data collection strategy that meets regulatory requirements and participant expectations. Option D. Defer any action until a comprehensive external audit can be conducted to fully quantify the scope of the data collection issue. The correct answer is B. Immediately implement a technical fix to disable the data collection feature, followed by a communication to participants explaining the change. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need to address a significant compliance risk with the long-term implications for stakeholder relationships and program effectiveness. The Certified Programs Leader, CPL, must demonstrate a nuanced understanding of risk management principles within the specific regulatory framework governing their operations, ensuring that the chosen response is not only compliant, but also strategically sound and ethically defensible. The pressure to act swiftly without alienating key stakeholders or undermining trust necessitates careful consideration of all available response options. The correct approach involves a collaborative and transparent engagement with the identified stakeholder group to jointly develop and implement the risk mitigation strategy. This approach is right because it aligns with the principles of good governance and ethical conduct, fostering trust and buy-in. Specifically, within the UK regulatory framework and CISI guidelines. Proactive stakeholder engagement is often mandated or strongly encouraged when addressing compliance risks that directly impact them. This ensures that the response is practical, sustainable, and addresses the root causes of the risk from the perspective of those most affected. It promotes a culture of compliance by making stakeholders partners in risk management, rather than adversaries. An approach that focuses solely on imposing a unilateral solution without consultation fails to acknowledge the importance of stakeholder buy-in and can lead to resistance, reduced effectiveness, and potential reputational damage. This is ethically problematic as it disregards the impact on individuals and may be contrary to principles of fairness and due process, which are implicit in regulatory expectations for responsible program management. Another incorrect approach, which involves delaying the response until further, more detailed analysis is complete, might seem prudent but can be a failure to act with due diligence. Regulatory frameworks often expect timely action to mitigate identified risks. Prolonged inaction, even with the intention of gathering more data, can be interpreted as negligence and may exacerbate the risk, leading to more severe consequences and potential regulatory sanctions. Finally, an approach that prioritizes minimizing immediate costs over effective risk mitigation is fundamentally flawed. While cost-effectiveness is a consideration, it should not compromise the integrity of the compliance program or the ability to adequately address the identified risk. Regulatory bodies expect that resources will be allocated appropriately to ensure compliance and protect stakeholders, and a purely cost-driven decision that leaves a significant risk unaddressed is ethically and regulatorily unacceptable. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Thoroughly understanding the nature and impact of the identified risk. 2. Identifying all relevant stakeholders and their perspectives. 3. Evaluating potential risk response strategies against regulatory requirements, ethical principles, and program objectives. 4. Prioritizing collaborative and transparent approaches that foster stakeholder engagement and ensure sustainable risk mitigation. 5. Documenting the decision-making process and the rationale for the chosen approach. Question 20. Investigation of a recurring technical glitch impacting client data reporting within a certified financial advisory program reveals multiple instances of incorrect figures appearing in client statements over the past quarter. The program team has logged these as separate incidents and has implemented minor workarounds for each, but the underlying cause remains unidentified. As the certified program's leader, which approach best addresses the situation in accordance with regulatory expectations for issue tracking and resolution? Option A. Immediately escalate the recurring glitch to the IT department for a complete system overhaul, without further investigation by the program team. Option B. Initiate a comprehensive root cause analysis to understand the technical glitch's origin, assess its full impact on data integrity and client trust, and then develop a permanent fix. Option C. Close all open tickets related to the glitch, documenting the workarounds applied, and inform stakeholders that the issue has been addressed. Option D. Focus on refining the existing workarounds to make them more efficient, as they have temporarily resolved the reported data inaccuracies. The correct answer is B. Initiate a comprehensive root cause analysis to understand the technical glitch's origin, assess its full impact on data integrity and client trust, and then develop a permanent fix. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need for program progress with the imperative to thoroughly understand and address the root cause of issues. A rushed resolution without proper impact assessment can lead to recurring problems, compromise program integrity, and potential breaches of regulatory compliance if the issues relate to data accuracy, client protection, or operational standards. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the chosen resolution strategy is both effective in the short term and sustainable in the long term, aligning with the program's objectives and regulatory obligations. The correct approach involves conducting a comprehensive impact assessment before implementing a resolution. This means understanding the full scope of the issue, its potential consequences on program deliverables, stakeholders, and compliance, and then devising a solution that addresses the root cause. This aligns with the principles of good governance and risk management inherent in certified programs, ensuring that decisions are informed and that potential negative externalities are mitigated. Regulatory frameworks often mandate robust issue management processes that prioritize understanding and control over hasty fixes. An incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate closure without a full impact assessment fails to uphold the due diligence expected of a certified program's leader. This can lead to superficial fixes that do not address the underlying problem, potentially causing further complications and undermining the program's credibility. Ethically, it represents a failure to act with professional competence and care, as it risks exposing the program and its participants to unforeseen risks. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on the most visible symptom of the issue without investigating its origins, is equally flawed. This reactive stance ignores the possibility that the symptom is indicative of a deeper systemic problem. Such an approach is unlikely to provide a lasting solution and may lead to repeated occurrences of the same or similar issues, demonstrating a lack of proactive problem solving and potentially violating regulatory requirements for effective control environments. A further incorrect approach, which involves escalating the issue without attempting any initial analysis or impact assessment, bypasses the responsibility of the program leader to exercise their judgment and expertise. While escalation is sometimes necessary, doing so without first gathering sufficient information to inform the escalation is inefficient and can overburden higher levels of management or oversight with poorly defined problems. This demonstrates a lack of ownership and a failure to apply a structured problem-solving methodology. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, clearly define the issue. Second, gather all relevant information. Third, assess the impact of the issue on program objectives, stakeholders, and compliance. Fourth, identify potential root causes. Fifth, develop and evaluate resolution options based on the impact assessment. Sixth, implement the chosen resolution. And seventh, monitor the effectiveness of the resolution and conduct a post-resolution review. This systematic process ensures that decisions are well-informed, risk-aware, and aligned with professional standards and regulatory expectations.